Continuing in our exploration of grief, particularly in how our relationship or dealing with the death of a loved one really brings us right into relationship with how it is that the four distortions that the Buddha described really bring us so much pain and suffering. So we've talked a little bit about each of the first three, and today I want to talk about a very interesting, fascinating actually, possibility of relating to this fourth distortion. So the fourth distortion that causes us so much pain is we cling to what is selfless and empty by nature as having a self, having some intrinsic, independent, permanent existence, kind of a monolithic, solid existence that it does not have. So I was thinking about Stephen Levine's very famous book, quite old now, called Who Dies? No, who is the person? Who is the person who's dying? Right now, I know that the basis of designation of the label Beth Morris, the body, the mind that was associated with that body, do not exist. Even as I was, by her bed before she actually stopped breathing, it was clear that the consciousness of this person, already it wasn't my mom. You could look and go, well, where is she? My sister, especially the younger one, came in and went, that's not my mother in the bed. That's not my mom. You already have the sense that something about the person you thought was your mother is not there. And even in the hospital the night before she died, I was able to spend the night there. And, it was very soothing in a way to look at this body, a broken body, bruised from where they had tried to put in all the intravenous things that were keeping her alive at that time. The respirator was on her face. There was the gash from the fall that was not in any way a cause of the injury. It was brain injuries in both cases. Trying to identify what in that is my mother. So to spend time a little bit with the 32 parts of the body was helpful. Head hair. Is the head hair my mother? It's very familiar, but is that my mother? Body hair. The hair on her arms, is that my mother? The nails on the hands that were already curled from being paralyzed, both her hands and her feet had that look from the paralysis. Is that my mother? Nails, teeth, a mouth so familiar, totally covered up, right? Skin, mottled, already bruised. Is that my mother? So I found it throughout this whole process, as as the minister came to visit and was helping everyone to think, open up to let all the pain out, open up and let the Holy Spirit come in. I thought, well, I can do that with Chenrezi's light. That's, it's a nice idea to open up and allow the image of Chenrezi on the crown of my head just fill out and pour out purify the pain from this. But how much more soothing it was to really think, wow, the basis of designation of the label, Beth, my mom, no longer exists. It was very soothing to think from conception, my mother was destined to die. This consciousness and this body were destined to separate. And so is mine. And so this is completely normal, and the person I'm looking for does not exist. So I know this. After the breathing ceased, you can really tell the person is not there anymore. But that body was, at one time, a part of the basis of designation of this label, my mom. What made it mine? What made that body anything to do with mine? What made it actually mom? To to explore that kind of question. And then once the cremation occurred, then even that piece wasn't there anymore. Much less the consciousness was no longer in relationship with this pile of ashes. The gross consciousness is completely absorbed. The mind is going on and on and on and on and on. And what's fascinating to me is that there is kind of a little unconscious radar in me still. Sort of like being with a computer network airport. It's like scanning. Where is she? 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 That I am looking for is the grasping at an intrinsic nature person that does not exist. It's fascinating to see that my mind is doing this unconsciously. I would imagine if you were married for a really long time, it would be even stronger, this search. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? So to be able to look at the mind that's looking for somewhere, where's my mom? Where is my mom? Now, I didn't know that I do this. I was very close to my mother. And I would say that we were somewhat psychically connected in the way that moms often are. You know, they know when you're in trouble. Some moms, mine did, and vice versa. But this little bit subtle bit of scanning, this to me is a very vivid and gross, but a vivid demonstration of, oh, this is what I grasp, is some projection of some person above, beyond, different, existing beyond the aggregates of body and mind that does not exist. And it's a little bit shocking to think, and never did, in the way that I am holding it. So to have the stomach for this maybe takes some practice, I don't know. But I found it so soothing to think about it in this way. It's like, wow, what an opportunity to see how I cling to something that doesn't exist. And then, of course, there's so many physical things about the person that have to be taken care of. There's a house full of stuff. There are boxes of letters, there are boxes of photographs, there are little things that were taken on this trip, little things that we got on that trip, little things that came from here, from there, these clothes, these that were born at this situation, these shoes that came from this situation. Are any of those things my mother? Are any of those things the person at all? And when the person is not there, that's what we have. Little notepads that they've written notes on, little clues about who they were. Which is not to say that this person did not exist and function as my mother. She did. But this intrinsically existing, monolithic, independent, kind of existing beyond her aggregates person, not there, never was. And what a gift to be able to reflect on this in this environment and really get some deeper clues about how our ignorance creates the stories that we tell. Our ignorance creates the whole existence that we make up, that we grab onto, and causes us so much suffering. So, another antidote to dealing with grief is to then stop taking our attention onto what we don't have anymore and put our attention on what we have had. Venerable Chödrön defines grief as a loss that we didn't plan for and didn't want, and that what we're longing for is our expected future with this person, that's what we're missing. So what if we stop looking into the future? Because the basis of designation of the label of this person no longer exists. But for how many years we had how much relationship? For how many years we had how much contact? For how many years did we have, whatever it was that we had together, and what are the gifts that we have that go on? Joan Halifax talks about how after the death of her father, she can see that in his children and in his grandchildren, the gifts that he gave them go on and benefit others tremendously as people live their very full and happy lives. I can say that is true also for my mom. To know that whether whether the radar keeps looking for something out there that doesn't exist, or whether I can acknowledge, as she often told me, she gave me some good genes. Well, she did. So did my dad. I learned a tremendous amount from my mother. What a fabulous influence she was in my life. I also want to say my mother was not a saint. And, the myth of the sainted mother is not something we need to latch onto either. But I can acknowledge who she was and rejoice in all of the great things that we did together. And also spend more time thinking about the emptiness of the inherent existence of my mother.